peek behind the curtain of the Softly Training Lab with the Softly Performance Podcast. The pinnacle of human performance is out there, and we intend to find it.
Welcome to the next episode of the Softly Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Coach G, and with me is Coach Matt. Today, we're talking about relatedness, and that sounds like a very woo-woo soft term, but as those of you who've been listening to us for a while, I think you understand there's a bit more color to that word as far as how we're going to approach it. To review, we've talked about self-determination theory and the 3 psychological needs that you need to fulfill to feel complete as a human being. And as a quick review, one of them is autonomy. You need to feel like you're in control. A clearest example I can come up with in regards to what does that mean is when you first entered in your respective service, be it military, law enforcement, or fire, you didn't have a lot of control. Think of like basic or boot camp. Your seniors are essentially controlling every aspect of your life. And over time, they give you a little bit more autonomy. So you have more control, you have more agency. Think of, a really rough deployment cycle. The circumstances of your life aren't inherently up to you. Competence, you need to feel like less of an idiot at the end of the session than when you first started. Or in short, you need to feel like you're getting better at something over time. So for those of you listening, the clear-cut example I can bring up is training in the weight room. When you complete a program, you feel like you've made progress to some degree. This can also extend to other aspects of your life. So for example, I'm looking at my mountain bike right now, or marksmanship, etc. You need to feel like you're getting better. We all know what it feels like when you just can't hit that groove, when things aren't going right, you feel like an idiot. The one I wanted to talk about that we haven't really touched on too deeply or dove too deeply into is relatedness. Relatedness, what is that? You need to feel like part of a group. You need to feel like part of a tribe. And the notion or the prompt that I wanted to bring up to Coach Matt today was that inclusion and exclusion are biopsychosocial needs. What is that? Inclusion and exclusion. There must always be an other, and no matter what group you are in. So to be clear, cut, and dry, between the 3 of us, Coach Matt, myself, and Brent, I would be the other because I'm not fully, let's say, staffed by Softly. But this is true for any and all groups. I want you to consider that you've been given the opportunity to visit the Exos facility with your cohort. Everyone else is different. You are the other, or by extension, they are the other. So I wanted to talk about what is relatedness, why is it important to think about from a more objective standpoint, and how you might fulfill that need, for better or for worse. So Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. Immediately, my kind of thought goes to, that team building environment. How do you kind of create that? And I know, sorry, I don't mean to immediately volley this back over the net to you, but I remember you talked about that. Was that Romania? I feel like that was a perfect illustration of what you're kind of talking about. I wonder if you want to use that as a vehicle. For guys who haven't heard, what were you tasked with and what did you do?
Okay, so in review for everyone, particularly if you haven't listened to any of these episodes, we talked about the privilege I had in spooling up a cohort of special operations candidates for the Romania Special Forces. We created a physical preparation course. Actually, there was other elements too, so martial arts, small unit tactics, land nav, etc. But our portion was a strength training piece. And immediately when you said that, Matt, and I talked about biopsychosocial need, include and exclude, there was a kid, and I can't remember the nickname we gave him, but that kid was soft as fuck, man. I hated that kid's guts. The San Francisco treat. Bryce-a-roni is what we called it. I don't know what, fucking call signs, the origins are stupid. But I remember I caught him hiding from the and then here's the thing, that pissed me off about it. For some reason in their heads, some of the cohort, not all of them, but some of them interpreted what we were doing as, oh, this is a filter. They were trying to filter me out. They're trying to make this hard. As I said, the words physical preparation. It wasn't selection. Selection was coming later. So our job was to get you as ready as possible. So I'm supposed to help you. It was made very clear. So when I saw people try to fucking cheese dick it really got my blood boiling, particularly this kid. Because what would that mean? That would mean, because we're measuring everything, that would mean when it came to selection, you were going to be found wanting because you were a lazy shit, right? So anyway, this kid, I remember we had to go. Now, the reason I'm bringing him up as the other, consider the rest of the cohort. They know this kid. They don't like this kid because he's not pulling his own weight, so to speak.
I was just going to ask that. Was that something that the cohort was aware of? Okay.
Yeah, because so I'll give you a great example. right? Like I want you to put yourself in the cohort, the cadres, not the cadre, but the cohorts or the platoon, call it what you want, their heads. You're in this pipeline. You have been informed that we're trying to get you ready. The training for the day is something that you've already done. It's not like we're doing unknown shit. So there's a maximal aerobic speed, which we talked about, maximal aerobic speed biased run. So think measured in minutes, not hours, short in duration, moderate to high in intensity. So around 15 to 20 minutes is, I'm throwing that out there because it's been some time. Then you get back to the training facility and we change over to do body weight circuit if memory served, or it could have been, it was a ruck. We had to do a speed ruck is what we called it. So anyway, we're about to go out for the run, which is staggered. We have 3 different buckets, so to speak, the fast guys, the slugs, the rabbits, and the moderates or the mediums, I think is what we called them. And this kid was fucking hiding behind a shipping container. Like, it's fucking...
Here, instant promotion.
Oh, yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. All right. You don't want to run. So you're hurt. I remember that's what he says. Like, I'm hurt. Oh, okay. All right. Non-contact work, bitch. And I was with him the whole time. Fucking sled work, bike work. He was fucking hating life.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've all worked with somebody like that before, particularly if you were in the military. The shit bag is what the Marine Corps would call it, or the malingerer, where you have to you kind of have to drag this guy forward. If you were in my position, I remember there was a guy, Ogeen, which I don't know if I highly doubt he's listening to this, but when I received him when I was in the fleet, and I was a platoon sergeant for Sierra Battery 511. This guy we got word that he was coming to us, and we also got word that he was a gigantic shitbag. And he was terrible as a Marine when I got him. I can't remember why, but just like immediate obedience to orders wasn't there, maintaining grooming standards wasn't there, uniform standard, all whatever fucking marker you want to use or KPI, he failed to meet the mark. And when we talk about relatedness, he was the other. And so it was with the unit that he was coming from. But I'm a particularly strong-willed individual, and I'm very stubborn, and I was determined if you wanted to be the other, you were going to be the other. So thankfully, I had a really strong cohort of, I don't want to say subordinates, but the leadership underneath me, my corporals, my NCOs, or my lower NCOs, I should say, fucking made his life a living hell. Every aspect of his life was managed to the point where the path of least resistance, which sounds bad, but I think anybody in the military would understand the path of least resistance was compliance. Mm-hmm. And as that started to become realized, and he started to realize like, oh, my life would be easier if I did X, Y, and Z. I think what he also started to realize, which there's a bigger message here, and I'm kind of regretting Brent isn't here, was that we cared. We cared enough to care to make his life a living hell, which sounds fucking backwards. But what ended up happening is he became a really strong Marine in that way. Like he complete 180. Now, I say...
Was he aware of this process? Like he was aware that that's the reputation?
Yeah, I remember because what I also started, it was almost a bastardization of Stockholm syndrome because he started becoming happier too.
Yeah.
And I think going back to autonomy, what started happening too is like when he started getting more compliant, we started fucking backing off. We started getting a little bit more freedom. And next thing you know, towards the end of my enlistment, he's leading Marines, the new joins that came into the unit.
Yeah.
Who better than the guy who was the biggest shitbag?
So that's what I was going to ask you based on that. So thinking more of like a training environment, an exos environment, or if people are listening and they're in charge of PT, how would you suggest or advise people play it? Are you if you've got someone like that, do you make everyone suffer because of them? So
I'm so glad you
that's something I've come across. Like that's something we were taught to weaponize like that. Okay, well. Yeah. The rest of your team is going to pay for the fact that you are hiding behind the bins or whatever instead of doing the ruck, and you can enjoy watching them. Like there's that route, or are you going to kind of take them to one side and be like, "Come on, mate, you need to like get your shit together, keep up with the rest of the guys," kind of thing. Like how do you play it, or is it? And it depends.
I love that you brought that up. Well, so first thing, I think everybody in the military understands this. I think, and I'm just going to throw this out there as a blanket statement. I feel like most civilians don't understand this. There is an idea out there that mass punishment doesn't work. And I think the reason people think that, now I haven't backed this up, I haven't looked into this, so I need to do my due diligence, but I believe a reason that a significant amount of the civilian population believes that mass punishment doesn't work is because they're trying to apply it to their own values when everyone around them from a civilian standpoint has their own set of values. And I would agree with that notion. However, if you are trying to identify common values, so to be a corn dog or a motard, is what the Marine Corps would call it. Justice, judgment, dependability, initiative, decisive, tact, integrity, enthusiasm, bearing, courage, and knowledge. Anyway, those values are being fostered and identified through basic and just generally the external environment in the Marine Corps. It's not like that for most people. If you're facilitating, you have this high control environment, you can see how mass punishment is kind of pushing the filter to identify people that fit in this. So mass punishment does work in the right context. So to further answer your question, Matt, this reminds me of, we talk about autonomy. This concept I'm about to break down. I wish I came up with this. I should say also, I was thinking about it prior to the record of the session. I first read this in a book about sports psych, if memory serves. And I was like, oh, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. And then I got to go see, let me backtrack. I got to see a sports psych speak at a very particular unit. I'll leave it at that. I was very excited to see his approach to working with this particular unit. And he told this story that kind of encapsulated self-determination theory, autonomy, and relatedness. And I was captivated. And then like a year later, I decided to read on behavior change or sports psych myself. And I found the same fucking story. So it kind of like, I thought you came up with that yourself. And because come to find out that guy got fired. And I think that's part like he was faking the funk, so to speak. Anyway, so the story. I want you to imagine that you're a crotchety old man. You're retired.
That's not a stretch,
right
mate.
now,
I'm
right?
virtually there, yeah.
It's Saturday morning. You have a house with a back porch that opens onto an incredible view. And it's Saturday morning. This is a ritual of yours. You drink coffee and you just watch the sunrise. Well, for whatever reason, this Saturday morning, there's a bunch of kids playing outside in front of your view. And they're messing with the zen of the vibe. So you being the crotchety old man, you yell at these kids like, hey, get off my lawn, so to speak. And the kids don't give a fuck. They do what they're going to do. So it's very irritating. And this goes on for weeks. You yelling at the kids not giving a shit, kids being kids. Well, one day, because you remembered this podcast, one day you decide to flip the script. And you just, instead, when I told this story, I used to say that day, that Saturday morning, when those kids show up, you give each of them $1. But in today's economy, I think I'm going to have to say $5 or even $10 a kid. So anyway, $5 per kid. And you know what? Kids, I was wrong. I was wrong about being a crotchety old man. In today's day and age with so much distraction, I think it's great that you're outside playing under the sun rather than behind a screen. So here's $5. And this continues. Now, Matt, that being said, let's say this continues for weeks and one day you just don't show up. What happens?
They can be pissed.
They're going to be
pissed.
Pissed.
Cash, son.
I mean, like, where the fuck is my money? Where's that old man with my money? Right? And the notion here, and what happens? They stop showing up. And the reason that story is told is because it is a good demonstration of taking someone that's very internally driven and flipping the script, so to speak, from an autonomy standpoint and pushing them towards more externally driven. I want you, listener, to think about the values therein of the kids that were playing. When they were playing for play's sake, and you perverted it by bringing something external in. And what that does is it makes the whole process cheaper as a result. You've changed it from something that was transformational in values to transactional. And therefore, it's cheaper. And therefore, once that external motivation is gone, the behavior itself will stop. That's the analogy. So Matt, to further answer your question as far as relatedness, so that is a sliding scale. And obviously, you can intentionally structure it one way or the other. So I want you, if you're a Marine, you'll understand this, and hopefully, hey, if you're listening to this and you're one of these dudes, I want you to take this opportunity to self-reflect. There are Marine leaders, lower level enlisted, that exist to fuck you up. Their whole life and ethos, the lessons that they took from that early first year of Marine Corps life was, well, my job is to make your life suck. And they're not understanding that the whole process is very intentional. The idea is facilitating autonomy. So how do we do that? Well, first, exert a fuck ton of external motivation, mass punishment being some kind of external source. It can be reward, but I keep saying bringing up punishment because that's what you remember when you're a young Marine. So Ogin, that Marine, a lot of external. Why? Because internally, going back to those kids are just playing to play because play is inherently valuable to them, not for money. Ogin somehow along the way identified a different set of values that created friction within the environment that he was supposed to be operating in. So we kind of have to hit a reset, and we have to, whatever was driving him, we have to apply external motivation or external punishment towards to facilitate this reset of values. Because clearly he made it through boot camp. So something went right at first. Anyway, going further, Matt, that's stage 1. Lots of punishment or reward. Stage 2, we attach you to somebody. You make it contingent on a small team, 1 to 2, but maybe 4 people. When I was in a facility training a particular cohort, this was easy. I have those of you listening who have worked with me before, there's this vision board that sounds super lame, but it's actually visual. We talked about this visual training where you have numbers and shapes. And there were 2 ways to win this drill. I had you on the VersaClimber, and you can win through distance, or you can win through the completion of these drills. Like how many pages did you manage to make it through? And it was a team-based environment. So if you and I were working together, Matt, it is in both of our interests to fucking send it on the VersaClimber and do as well as possible. And then on the flip side, finish as many charts because you're relying on me and I'm relying on you. Another great example of this from a simple standpoint is one of my favorites, which I haven't done in years. I'm holding in a double rack position 2 24-kilo kettlebells, and you're on a rower or a Versa for either 500 feet or 500 meters. And then we do 5 rounds of that. And so I'm fucking dying. So you're sending it on the rower. But at the same time, we're going to flip that as well. So you can see right there, we went from lots of overt control on a single individual to now you're relying on the team member. So small team.
Yeah.
Then we can shift even further. Now it's a bigger team. Or even more wooden example, I want you to consider someone who's a shitbag. If I said, hey, you got to cover, you got to cover 3 miles and your time needs to be 30 minutes versus, hey, I need you to cover 3 miles. You see how one is more externally driven? If I've identified the right kind of values or I've facilitated the path of least resistance, when I tell you 3 miles, you'll fucking send it, right? So versus Ogin, if I told him right out the gate, hey, I need you to cover 3 miles, he'll do it, but it's going to be a real shitbag. I've got photos of the Romanians, and I can't remember the distance ruck that they had to do. Let's say it was 12 miles. And week 1, like the assessment, I think it was only 3,000 meters, 3K. And they look like shit. They were all over the place. Really a huge accordion. And those who ruck understand what that accordion is. I'm telling you, worse than what you've seen. I have pictures. It's terrible. And it looks like everybody's out for a Sunday fucking stroll. And then at the end, super tight grouping, everybody's hitting the same speeds. Not only that, they're helping each other, and we're not having to fucking, hey, you got to hit this speed. None of that. So as far as how you can facilitate this, nobody talked to me about this in fucking sergeant's course or corporal, none of that shit. Like, this is all stuff I learned after the fact. And it's clear to me now, like, whether it's done unintentionally, meaning that these are the things they just kind of found to be successful or not, like it's clearly well designed as kind of a function of like what boot camp's about. And I think that's where kind of it doesn't piss me off. It's just like, oh man, I wonder how much further it could get if they taught these people, hey, here's what you're actually doing psychologically versus just follow the manual. I feel like it's a missed opportunity because now, knowing what I know now, like it just makes things a lot smoother, easier or efficient. That's the better word. Efficient as far as getting people more internally driven. When I say getting people more internally driven, Matt, I can't tell you, oh, family is important to you. Like, we need to make sure that you understand. No, that's already in you. It's just how much of that can we morph or a kind of shift in that direction? Can we make family more important? And that's what I meant by the path of least resistance. Can we make esprit de corps, or can we make being beholden to the team more important to you? And that's what we were trying to do with Ogin, and we had a lot of success. So in training, in summary, you want to slide somebody to externally motivated? The guy who Navy SEALs understand, it pays to be a winner, right? So like some kind of reward, maybe the reward is just a little more rest, or punishment. You were last to finish, so you're getting fucked, to a team-based event, small team, to maybe, well, it depends. Now this is where you get to have fun. Now that event is timed or paced or untimed and paced, and that's up to you. I would say you should incorporate, this is completely on you, towards the end of their experience. I'll give you another great example. Shields and Stripes. When they came to us, one of the first things I do is a maximum aerobic speed test.
Sorry, G, just really quick, because I know this is a cause really close to your heart. Do you want to just give like a quick shout out and intro to what Shields and Stripes is?
Yes. Shields and Stripes is a nonprofit organization targeting military and first responders. I believe spouses on occasion as well, but typically ones that don't necessarily have access to the same programs like the Navy SEAL Family or Future Foundation or Family Foundation, et cetera. They're generally not special operations, generally. And the idea is in 3 weeks' time, they have a transformative experience, both from a physical and mental standpoint. I want you to think of the people who have the opportunity to go like, oh, let's thank our veterans. You get a free ticket to the football game. Okay, cool. What are you doing about the guy's mental health? Or, yeah, we ran a parachute course. Like, we're going to change lives. Like, that's great. I'm not discounting that, but it's not the same as, hey, we're going to save this guy's life with 3 weeks of fucking hard work and then 9 weeks of post-telehealth care. So if you're interested in that, if that's something that appeals to you, or if you know someone, more importantly, if you know someone that would benefit, push them in that direction. Anyway, so they come to me and we have to do a maximum aerobic speed test in the VersaClimber. We use the VersaClimber because of the limited risk as far as contact injuries, like, or tissue tolerance injuries. So like, straining a calf or something, it's non-impact.
But the high risk of throwing up or shitting yourself.
Or yes. Which is funny because, yeah, you're right. Those are not, we could solve those things. I can't fix your torn Achilles. But anyway, it fucking sucks. But on the first day, because of that, because it sucks so much, I want you to imagine if I went at it like fucking DI level, like, fucking go, blah, 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 and I'm fucking chewing their ass out. Firstly, these are vets. And when I say vets, I don't mean that military standpoint. I mean military first. They've been at it for a while. So think about that. That's going to be like irk you. It's like, yo, I'm not at that level anymore. Haven't been for years. So there's that. That's a violation of the external motivation thing. And then secondly, it's been, for a lot of them, it's been a while. So now I'm going to kind of like take a step back. Hey, you gotta go for, and we're not going to go into the whole maximum aerobic speed protocol, but you got to go for 5 minutes. And I fucking walk away. Tell me what you got in 5 minutes. So think about that. Like if you're out of shape, it's going to be a shitty number. And I would say anywhere between 400 and 700 if you've never done a Versa. And it's interesting to see how some people will beat themselves up about it when the goal was just tell me what you did in 5 minutes. Not consider if I'm like, hey, I needed to see a minimum of 400 feet and you better fucking do this and like you better cover 1,006. No, like think about right there. I've kind of bastardized it. No, the goal was 500 fucking 5 minutes. That's it. Then towards the end, hey, let's do it again. And they're fucking flying, dude. There's a huge difference. Think about what's happening internally when they realize, oh, this is a saying. I just just in 3 weeks, I destroyed my score. So it's really interesting. And think about what that's doing internally. These people are coming to us because they know they have to make a change, that they need agency. So more autonomy. And then going back to the whole fucking topic that we were talking about, Matt, relatedness. This is a cohort of 6 to 8 people that you're with for 3 weeks. And you're doing a lot of work. They're all focused on getting better versus you're in a civilian sector and everybody has their own motivations. I'm not saying that's bad, but you got to find a team, going back to, finding your tribe. But when you're like-minded, or rather you have the same kind of values inherent, you can go really fucking far. So Matt, I feel like I missed something there, but maybe I did.
No, that was awesome. But I was gonna kind of keep the momentum, the trajectory you're on and say, well, I think that's potentially where it's so easy to get unstuck when you leave, when you transition out, because you go from that kind of shared values, shared goals, probably a little bit of like spoon feeding, like you're kind of protected a little bit in regards to the real world, at least my experience, to all of a sudden, like particularly moving from the UK to the States, zero safety net for anything. Like that's definitely I really see the value in something like the program you were just describing, like where you're trying to recreate that after the fact. Obviously, I know you said a lot of this stuff you became aware of post, like in your S&C career as opposed to in your military career. So how did you kind of navigate that transitioning out? And what would you, if you could like pull, I don't know how old you were, young G aside and say like, okay, like this is what I know now, this is what you should do. Like how would that change your kind of transition out period?
Okay. Oh, that's great. Man,
I threw a lot at you there.
Yeah, that's a big one. So firstly, I would say that what I was being taught in academia was too structured and removed from applied or real world. So I remember learning about this stuff and it coming off as like a completely different language, like from a different fucking planet. And I didn't understand. And big reason for that is, now I'm saying this is from a strength and conditioning education standpoint, is because firstly, they have to teach it almost like, and I know Marines understand this, almost like they were reading it from a manual and not applying context to your real world. So it was kind of like mysterious to me until I went to Exos and I started seeing the levers that I had access to. Because you also have to consider, I was talking about someone who's kind of starting over again. Consider the really high level operative who's fucking done it. There's a specific group I'm thinking of that I've talked shit about before. This one individual, he had his own values that kind of aligned with the rest of the group, but the dude was a huge asshole. And I'm bringing that up because that person is almost too far on the other end, and it's like, I can't bring him back. It's almost too late. So there's also that notion as well. And that was really challenging working with that guy. And the other thing too, that we have to consider is time. So the more rigid someone is, the more time I need with that person. Because if they're closed off and they have their own internal values that they're kind of judging everything off of, you kind of need time to break that down. And I only had that guy for 3 days. Yeah. I think in a week I can get you pretty close to eating out of my hand, so to speak. But if going back to what your original question was, like, what would I tell myself? Firstly, I try to get to somebody who's applied. And I guess when I say that, what do I mean by that? Like someone who's successfully made Joey Sudamak is a local here, and he's writing a book on personal training. And I wish it was a book that I had when I got out. Because when I got out, not even related to strength and conditioning, because one of the most important chapters is on mentorship. And I didn't have that. If I had someone that I could turn to for advice in a position that I respected, and I'm saying this knowing that I didn't know fuck all when I left the service, but at least somebody to help push me in the right direction, that would have saved me a lot of mistakes.
Did you have, so I obviously different service, different country. Plus for me, I left in the middle of COVID because we knew we were moving to the States, like a whole kind of cluster. I very, very, what we now, six years ago, very vividly remember handing in my ID card for the last time, and they cut the corner off it and driving out of camp. And I remember thinking like, oh shit, like life is real now. Like this is real. Did you kind of, and at that, I was going to say at that point, I think having some kind of like, maybe some kind of guardrails like you described, like a mentor or like something just to kind of, I touch wood, I was lucky, but did you have that same kind of experience? Like I'm assuming that's got to be fairly common.
It was kind of like the end of the movie where the camera's on I can't remember the name of the machine, but it's like way up in the sky and it's looking down at the person leaving for the last time. That's kind of like in my head what I had. I remember. Yeah, that last 3 months was not bittersweet. It was kind of weird. It was just that vibe, playing the sad music and driving off into the sunset.
And so did you know, sorry, and this is kind of getting off topic a little bit, but did you know you were getting out for a while and like kind of had planned?
Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, so when I first came in, I was like, the first 2 years I was pretty fucking moto. And I was not convinced, but I was fairly certain that I was going to stay in.
Okay.
And a big reason I didn't is because towards the back end, we had, going back to the mentor thing, but now in service, we had a shitty commander. So those of you who are familiar with the show Generation, or I shouldn't say show, but the story Generation Kill Story, Rudy Reyes's, and I can't remember the platoon commander's name. That's going to, Lieutenant Nathaniel Fick, I believe. They were dealing with a commander that they nicknamed Captain America because he was super paranoid and incompetent. And I had someone, not the same guy, but I had someone very similar. And the culture that he had built in the unit that I was in was very dumb. It didn't they cared about the dumbest shit, dude. And it was really irritating to me. And I remember he wanted promotions under his name. So he promoted people that I specifically did not, like there's paperwork, it's called a non-rec. You fill out this paperwork, do not promote this guy. And he did it anyway. So that put a really bad taste in my mouth as far as, I just think about this, and you always regret the things you don't do. And I'm not saying like no, it's not a negative thing. It's just like, I wonder how it would have been had I found the right person to mentor me. Like I just wasn't aware of this stuff. It's not that I didn't want to do it. I wasn't aware to let me know like, hey man, like just like you had a shitty commander, don't forget you had a great one too. So it'll probably flip again. And that's just how it is. So I wonder where I would be. I'm not making excuses. I'm not blaming anybody. But they made it hard. That unit made it hard to stay in because I also had the contrast of what it used to be like. So then I chose to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I say all that Where were we going with that?
Well, I was kind of getting at, like, did you have that? Okay, I was an insider and now I'm an outsider. I can't remember what terminology you used at the start, but that kind of
outsider
notion.
is a good
Did you
way
have that
yeah.
same kind of?
Yeah, well, for sure. Because I mean, the door's closed. And it wasn't intentional. It's not like anybody's like, no, we don't talk to him anymore. It was just like, that I think about who I was talking to that got out when I was in, and I didn't. It's just not, the environment isn't supportive of that. So, I was the outsider, and the transition from military to civilian was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Probably the hardest thing, because I went to a fucking dark place. And a lot of that is because I didn't have all these things. I didn't have a mentor. And when I say mentor, I'm not talking about like, think about it from a relatedness standpoint, someone who's been where I am and can kind of help in that way. From a mental standpoint, and in the bastardization of that, there's an individual that I know, and this is I know is a common story, very much related to what you're talking about, Matt. These are the guys who go to the VFW, and the VFW is a veteran service organization, and they have a reputation for, if I went to the one down the street, it's a bar, and vets will come in there and they just drink all day. And they fucking tell each other sob stories and try to facilitate, maxing out your disability with the VA. Like, it's a very different ball game. And I like to make fun of Louis sometimes, but in love, he says he has his fucking axioms like, if you want to develop a limp, run with the lame or whatever. That's kind of what happened. This individual found a new group, new norms, adopted the same behaviors because inclusion, exclusion are biopsychosocial needs. So he needed to be included. So now he's a fucking broke dick. Even though, like, when you look at what he's did in his service, I gotta admit, like, not everybody rates 100%. Like, he was admin. Like, and I know what he did. He didn't do enough. I'm not saying admin doesn't see shit. They do. But I know what he did, and it wasn't that. So anyway, so you got to be careful, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is like, from a relatedness standpoint, you got to find the right tribe. You can't just find any tribe. And I wonder, like we talked about, like, I would have had an easier time if I found the right mentors. The flip side, true. I would have had a worse time if I found the wrong one, right? So the wrong group. I remember one of the guys I linked up with when I was going to college was a vet, and he was a nice guy, and we had an immediate connection going back to relatedness because he was a Marine. We went out for a few beers, and I remember he's like, I don't drink. And the Marine Corps is a very alcohol-centric culture, and I did not drink a lot compared to my buddies. So when he didn't want to drink, I thought it was a weird...
Nope, you're a bit choppy. I'm following, my timer's still going. You're getting hot. Yeah, yep. So I'm still rolling on my timer.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so I remember we went to this bar, and he's like, I don't want to drink. And I thought it was the weirdest thing. And then I pressured him into it. Keep in mind, I don't drink. At this point, I wasn't drinking a ton. I pressured him into it, and I learned real quick why he didn't drink. He was a very mean and nasty drunk, like borderline call the police kind of guy. And I don't remember, I let that friendship go away, but the reason I'm bringing that up is because from a relatedness standpoint, it can't just be anybody. And I think if we understand that this is how human beings are, you can be a bit more objective about that and be like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. I should probably step out. You were allowed to step out of a relationship. So all that being said, and so that's the relatedness piece. Let's see, what else would I talked about? The right environment.
Well, I was just going to say, sorry, I don't want to ruin your train of thought, but I was going to say, I think that's where, like, I know we have a whole piece on those, like, the different phases of your career and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's where, like, training, like having something to train for, be that ops or deployment, or like, what did you say it was? 2K, 250 miles? You're thinking you're going to run
250?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. Like, those numbers are just kind of arbitrary to me, beyond about 2 miles. But anyway, having something like that, like having training, or I think I'm always a big proponent of those like die living activities, like adventure training. So like your mountain biking, climbing, paddling, surfing and stuff like that. I think those can be really good opportunities for people who are like transitioning out of the service or any kind of tactical space, because there is going to be like you said, you're in, once you're in, you're in, when you're out, you're out. Finding that new tribe and finding the quote unquote right tribe, like you talked about, I think those kind of places can be really good opportunities for that, I think. And that's something I would definitely say, if you're in the process of getting out, or if you have just got out and you're struggling to find that, they would be places that it sounds obvious, but I would really kind of push that.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example of that right now. So there was a time there, and I think it had a lot to do with being in the wrong environment where I was expending. So if you're in the wrong environment, you're going to expend a lot more energy because those values aren't lining up anymore. And we talked about that before. So you have to work harder to make the values that are more squishy align to the environment's values. So I think what was happening is, well, that leads to burnout, which I consider sometimes having someone speak about burnout, an expert on this cast. And I didn't realize how burned out I was getting at Exos. And to the point where people would invite me to go do things. I'm like, I don't want to do it because I didn't have the energy. I was spending all this energy on the environment. I bring that up because in September, I haven't mentioned this. In September, I've been invited to participate in a mountain biking trip to Moab. And I know 2 of the people going on this trip. The rest I don't know. But this is one of the first times I'm actually excited about it because the people I do know, I have a lot in common with from value standpoint. And I'm excited to meet these other people that are also like-minded. So I'm bringing that up because for people getting out of the military, you can be more intentional with how you spend your time. When I got out, I kept running and I participated in the Pat Tillman 5K, but I didn't realize I was a clove of garlic inside a peeled orange. So I fit in, but I was still a man apart. I needed to find more garlic, and then garlic that's healthy, so to speak. And this trip is kind of like that. I know I'm going to be meeting with people who mesh more with me. And I'm not saying I'm going to hang around with yes man and they're going to tell me I'm doing a great job. I'm not saying that. That's the element of the unknown as far as the people I haven't met yet. Or I've never been to Moab. I've never done group rides like that. So I'm kind of excited about it. I guess I should say that it should kind of excite you. You should be looking forward to it. So it's now the Cocodona 250, I'm dreading, but in a good way.
Yeah.
But this trip too, I don't know, man, I'm excited about it. I'm excited. I hope that kind of helps. As far as relatedness from my standpoint, so we talked about it from an overlord standpoint and managing the entire experience, and you're in a leadership role and what it should look like. But that's for me, my individual, how am I fulfilling relatedness? And I think that's the other thing is working with you and working with Brent. I've talked about this before. First 5 minutes talking with you guys, these are my people, comparative to Exos, where I talk about breaching to someone that's used to treating an ACL for a football. It ain't going to work.
Yeah. And that's something. So I was the same. I was super fortunate and land on my feet that the guys gave me a shot as a coach, when we first moved here. And immediately it was this is because I had the same thing. I went through a few local interviews and stuff like that. I was okay, it's going to kind of pay the bills. But exactly like you were saying. So I remember when you said about this idea of your values if they don't fit in with the environment you're in, it stretches you a little bit. I vividly remember being on a promotions course and I have no idea what this theory was. Going through slides, death by PowerPoint, and you know how good the military is at that. Mm-hmm. But it was a slide of so we call it a buoy, like a fishing buoy. Do you know what I mean? And it was showing it floating straight up, and there's not too much tension on the line that's connecting it to the ocean bed. And that's when you're in an environment that's kind of conducive and values mesh and stuff. And then as you start to kind of get environments where the buoy, to use my Americanism, is getting kind of pushed off center, there's more and more tension on that line, and eventually the line breaks. So that's a great
analogy, dude.
Well, mate, that's stolen straight from some promotional course I was on. But yeah, that's immediately what I thought. But again, I lived that just like you. Got out, moved here, like I said, midst of COVID. So job offers and stuff that were on the table as I was handing my paperwork to say, yeah, I'm done, I'm leaving. They vanished pretty quick.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
So I kind of went through that where you're sort of thinking, yeah, I could probably suck it up and force myself to be here, but it's going to be a stretch. It's going to be tough. And then finding that softly environment where it's like you've kind of never left. There's no real kind of ego to it. Everybody everybody's broadly going in the same direction. I would suggest from a value side of things. Yeah, I'm with you. So if you've not already and you're interested in that side of things, there's definitely still shit talking. I don't think it's as bad now as it used to be back in the day. But the team room, both on the app and the Facebook page, they're a great place to kind of introduce yourself or to connect with other people. The guys have been pretty good with weeding out any dicks. It's a pretty nice environment to be in, I think.
Yeah, man. Egotistical, right? We talked about that.
Yeah. And I genuinely don't really think that's an issue that we have in our little community.
What else do you think that the listener, I feel like we kind of hit the leadership piece pretty hard, but from an individual standpoint, I mean, we talked about seeking out, I don't want to say competition for competition's sake, but you're building up towards something, that's the competence. But if you can find people to do that with, that's relatedness. What else?
Yeah, I think so. That kind of goes to, who was it that wrote like talent code?
Dan Coyle.
Was that Dan Coyle? Yeah. So I know that was a huge piece of that, was this idea of talent hotbeds. And very rarely do you see like an individual freak. It happens, but typically it's because the culture and the environment that you're in our world, classically, it's going to be like West Side or like Altus for you. Like that environment is almost like a pressure cooker that creates that kind of shared experience that massively drives performance forwards. So I would say seek out opportunities where you can get that. And I think we are great for it as a company, but we're not in person. We're not real. Yeah. So I think where it's really powerful is like getting a group of people together, or finding a BJJ club or a gym or a mountain bike club, and like sharing that with people. I think that's ultimately how you're going to get to where you want to go.
BJJ club is actually a great example of that, or even a CrossFit box.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess it depends on the culture, right? Like,
I think that's something that CrossFit did so well for all its kind of negatives. I think, that side of fostering that community was huge.
So the adult group that I trained at Exos has been there for years. Some of them have been there since
What is that? That's just civilians, people who want to just come.
Civilians, but one of them, can I say this, is an attorney at a very high level for a particular municipality. One of them is a Hall of Famer for a certain sport that involves a ball. One of them is a consultant at a very high level for municipalities, multiple, also a business consultant. And the other individual is a MD, who is a specialist and also extremely competent. Now, the reason I bring up those individuals, because those are the guys that are the staples, they're the ones that are very consistent, is through thick and thin, as far as the chaos that is a high performance facility like that, they have been extremely consistent throughout. And a big reason for that is that core group, they want to see each other. So I want you to consider, going to the VFW and linking up with the dudes who drink. And that's what you spend an hour of your time every day, 5 days a week doing, or the former group of the doctor, the lawyer, the Hall of Famer, and the consultant.
That sounds like there's got to be a joke in there somewhere. They walked into a bar.
Yeah, right? It does. But like the pressure, positive pressure that you get with that former group versus, I'm using the positive and negative, but try to find, and I would say aim high as far as the groups that you want to hang out with. Here's the other thing too, like I have never done this, but I know that there are groups where you like pay, like a mastermind or Toastmasters, but those are options too. So
what is that?
Toastmasters is essentially public speaking.
Okay.
Which I like the idea of. I almost would want to, I don't know enough about, I've been to a couple meetings and you are given a topic that you have to speak on.
Okay.
And then you're judged in a very good way. Like, hey, you should try to say this less. You're doing this with your posture. This was weird. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I almost want to like look into debate club and see if that's a thing. Because I know debate, and this is worth bringing up for people. Debate, there's different styles. The style that's very much in vogue right now and very hot on social media is dominating the conversation, which irritates me. That is one style of debate. Just because you dominate and won the argument doesn't mean that it was a good debate. So there's different styles, and that's what I would want to know more about rhetoric and like, how do I argue? What are the different fallacies that exist, like ad hominems or strongman, or good points for argument, like the Iron Man strategy? Like these things I would want to know about so I can better communicate. Now think about that in relation to relatedness, competence, and how that might positively or negatively affect my outward life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't have to be physical.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. No, for sure. And I feel like, especially with, like you said, with the trends of how things are going at the moment within society, probably those kind of skills are going to be more and more sought after and useful than ever, I think, because it's going to become, I think the pendulum's got to swing back the other way. Otherwise, we're all fine.
Crazy times to live in. But you see it, man. Like, let's just be straight. Like the Jubilee stuff is very flagrant.
Yeah.
Let's get some wild people on here saying some crazy stuff. And it's just kind of like, well, the whole point is engagement. It's not having a good conversation. It's how do we get more clicks? And there's this notion of survivorship bias or recency bias. Just because someone has an idea and you see it, it therefore has more weight, when it could very well be very much in the extreme minority. But because you saw it, it has more permanence in your mind. It's like something I've thought about and I've been chewing on is the notion of kids don't realize how much biological diversity has decreased since the 70s. We lost over 50% of our biological diversity, which is fucking crazy. And the reason that's significant is, and the reason I'm bringing this up is, consider how many books, pieces of media our children consume that show lions and tigers and elephants as if there is no problem. In their heads, they're like, oh, this is fine. There's plenty of them. No?
Yeah.
So, and I guess what I'm advocating for is, perhaps we're advocating for seeking out relatedness, but also cognitive fortitude.
And I think that's like, I'm a dumbass. And so for me, it's easy because I can learn there's a lot of things out there to learn. Do you know what I mean? Because I have nothing to start with. But I think as you age, constantly learning, picking up new skills, new things like that, and not just physical, like you said, it can be kind of, it can be kind of cognitive or a combination. Skills like that are huge. And I think that's kind of a no shit as we age just generally. But I think in terms of getting, when going back to kind of transitioning out, because I see this as being a real value adder there, that can be a great opportunity then. Not so much the kind of new year, new me, reinvent yourself, like do something completely different, but just as having like another string to your bow, having something else about you so you're not just two-dimensional. You're not, I'm just a veteran.
That up. And the string to the bow thing being apt. There was a 5-year sequence where every year, January, I would try to learn something new.
Oh, cool.
So archery was one of those things. Writing was another one. Writing for fiction, I should say. Or journaling. Actually, it was journaling. I remember now. Mountain biking. At that time, that was in 2018 that I started mountain biking. And I tried something new every year until I found the thing that I became obsessed with, which was mountain bike. So that's, again, competence. And for me, it was not about finding something I enjoyed. No, it was more about I need to learn how to learn.
Yeah.
And foster that skill. And then it turns out, like for Alzheimer's and dementia patients, learning how to learn is one of the most important preventative actions that you can take.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one to push. Again, like throwing it back to CrossFit. I think that was one of Greg Glassman's early things, was about like trying to do a new sport. I can't remember how it like fit into the pros, but like constantly do new sports.
Yeah. And then he had actually criticism for the CrossFit organization, or not Greg Glassman. Greg Everett is who I'm thinking of, which I want to bring up for any task, an axiom that he has.
Yeah.
So that's just a blanket statement on CrossFit and lacking strategy as far as how you're training. So higher level practitioner athletes in CrossFit don't necessarily do CrossFit. I think CrossFit is its own thing. What I mean by that is, like, if snatch is my weakest lift and I'm doing CrossFit, perhaps there are times where I need to focus just on the snatch. So I know that doesn't have a lot to do with what we're talking about, but it's a great axiom worth keeping in mind.
Yeah. No, I agree. And again, that all kind of comes back to this idea of knowing what you want out of life, without you wanting to sound too kind of cheesy and out there, but knowing what direction you want to go in means you can kind of make everything else in your kind of world relevant to that piece. And if you're looking at somewhere to, I keep forgetting the terminology you use, but if you're looking to try and be an insider, you're looking to be included, that being comfortable and familiar with what that is, I think can really help you navigate that.
Yeah, I'm glad you also, I keep saying that. I'm glad you brought that up. So going back to what you asked me earlier, like what I wish I knew. Firstly, when I got out, one of the things, nobody says you can't talk to the expert in that field until you have a degree. Like you can go fucking talk to them right now. So if I want to go and be an MD, it's totally okay for you to reach out to an MD that you're interested in, even the specialty, and ask like, hey, what can I do or who can I talk to? At the very least, it'll kind of inform you. Like if you call 10 of them and they're all dickheads, well, okay, either that's you or maybe the field's not for you.
Yeah.
And then secondly, where was I going with that? Oh, right. If you're interested in a field, seek the knowledge out past what, let's say, is expected. What I mean by that is in my field, in this field of physical preparation, when you and I are coming up, at least my experience, like you got to read A Science and Practice of Strength Training, periodization, movement skill acquisition work, and it's very much tactical, but no one's talking about the realities of the field outside of government reports. So if you can seek out other information like behavior change, like I talked about sports psych, if I went through the traditional academia circles and just stuck to what I was being told I needed to learn about, I wouldn't be as good of a practitioner. Like you can tell how much experience someone has in a field by what they're reading. I read the scientific literature. I read the text. I have a book on marathon training and foot mechanics, but I also read other shit that has nothing to do with the field. And I'm not discounting savants that want to read just nothing but literature. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you can imagine how much more comfortable I am with the science and practice of strength training because I'm okay reading the weird shit. So right now I'm reading a book, 1491, which is on the history of Mesoamerica. What does that have to do with strength and conditioning? Fuck all, but it's really interesting. And you cannot know what kind of ties that text or that knowledge will have to your daily practice until you've read it. And it'll show up. It'll permeate regardless. So, because it will change you. So I guess I'm telling you, listeners, be it military first responder domains of expertise or be it post-transition, don't think it all has to be specific to the field as far as the information you're consuming. Be okay reading weird shit that has nothing to do with it. Don't be satisfied with Coach Giovani telling you got to read, oh my, Matt, shame on me. What is Louis' first book called?
Oh, I don't know. I don't
West
have
Side
much of his
Barbell.
stuff.
Man, this is weird. I keep getting delays. The West Side Barbell Book of Methods. Terribly edited book, by the way. But
is that the one that's just
you
black?
should read it. Doesn't mean you have to. What's that, Matt?
Yeah. Is that the one that's just black? Is that one?
No. It was his first book, and it was essentially a collection. The reason it's poorly edited, it was keep in mind this was written in the 90s. It's a collection of articles that he wrote, and they try to turn it into a cohesive narrative, but no one's going to convince me that Louis is an excellent writer. He's a powerlifter, and he's a powerlifter. He is the greatest powerlifting coach in the world. That's what his domain of expertise is. So the book, I remember thinking, this is the other thing. I remember thinking, am I dumb?
That's me daily.
Yeah, right.
Not just reading that.
Now I realize, no, it's just poorly worded and edited. That's all it is. It's so, I don't know. I guess I'm telling you guys, go read weird shit that has nothing to do with your field. If it interests you, check it out. You may be surprised.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice message to end on. Don't be too deep.
Yeah, I think so. Any final words, Matt?
Nothing for me.
All right, team. We're going to see you on the next one. I'm going on, we're going to be, oh shit. Thankfully that cup is empty. We're going to see you. If you're there, we're going to be at TSAC. We'll see you there. Matt and I are going to be getting nice and cozy in the same room. He told me there's 2 beds. I'm pretty sure when I show up, there's only going to be 1, which is going to get weird. But anyway.
We'll put a tag on the door.
Yeah. All right, team. You have a great one. Die living.